Hello everybody, this is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were saying that the commandments are done away with. We no longer have to follow the commandments of our Creator. The Bible's 2 books, not 1 book. And the New Testament replaces the Old Testament. And the whole commandments of Yeshua, they said Jesus, are different completely from the commandments of the Mosaic covenant. They believe that the Mosaic covenant was some laws given by some old man named Moses, and he invented them. And when Yeshua died, he no longer had to follow the laws of Moses, as this man claimed. And he said, we have new guidelines and instructions to follow, and those guidelines and instructions are in our heart. We no longer have to look at something that was written down. Well, I disagree completely with him. I think our Creator wrote these guidelines and instructions, used Moses as a messenger to convey these guidelines and instructions to the people. And Yeshua was telling people, okay, you have the written word, but now it's time that that word is on your heart and that becomes part of you. And just as Yeshua Messiah is the living instructions, the living Torah, the living guideline for how we should behave, we should have that desire to be that way for other believers as well. And nowhere in the scriptures does it say that the original covenant was done away with. The renewed covenant made it so much more special that it should be on our hearts. For example, if you have an old car, let's say you went to an auction and you bought a really old car from the 1950s and it was in bad shape, but you knew it was very valuable, the car itself, if it was in good shape. So you wouldn't throw the car away and try to build a new one. What you would do is you would try to clean up and restore that original car to its full beauty, to the full purpose it had. So you would clean that car, you would shine that car, you would make that car just as beautiful as it could be. You're renewing the car. You're not doing away with it. Well, we have instructions of and guidelines, and we need to renew those, and they need to be on our hearts so we're living them to the best of our knowledge. And our knowledge should be based on His guidelines and instructions that He wrote here. So I told this person, when Yeshua was going around teaching, what did He teach from? He taught from the foundation of all scripture known as the Torah, the guidelines and instructions. And this man said, but the law is done away with. And he even showed me some scriptures that said the law is done away with. Look, folks, one of the things Yeshua did when He was here was rebuked a lot of the sages and Pharisees and the Jewish people at the time, because it says in the scriptures clearly, do not add or take away from my word, but keep the guidelines and instructions. I want you to find that scripture and underline the word, but keep. Do not add or take away, but keep my instructions. And that's what He said. But the rabbis and Pharisees and sages back then, they were adding to it. And if Yeshua was around back then like He was, they were saying He wasn't doing enough. And He said, no, you're making it much harder than it has to be. And if He was around today, a lot of people would call Him a legalistic, saying He was doing too much. He's not doing too much. He's doing what the word says. Do not add or take away. You see, back then, they were adding to the guidelines and instructions. They call it man's law. Well, today we have a man's law. Today's man's law is taking away from the guidelines and instructions, saying we no longer have to do those things. I did a video the other day talking about there's more scriptures in the Bible against breaking the Sabbath, and it's called an abomination to do so, than any other thing out there, and then any other thing is spoken about more times. But people today want to look at homosexuality, they want to look at abortion, and they want to look at all these things that are mentioned as sin and bad things in the scripture, but nowhere near as much as breaking the Sabbath and not keeping many of the other guidelines and instructions. Teaching other people against that, the sentence was death to do that. You know, but people aren't taking that serious enough today. Because today people not only are they not keeping the guidelines and instructions, but they're teaching people against doing that. And we can look at it from every aspect out there. People are picking and choosing. If you're the owner or the pastor of a congregation, you say the Old Testament is done away with, we no longer have to follow that, but then you ask people for tithing. The hypocrisy is what Yeshua really was against. The hypocrisy of the people that said one thing and did another. He said, get away from me, I did not even know you, even though you called my name. And many of them didn't even call his name. Today, many people don't call his name. They don't even know his name. So we got to get this right, folks, because time's running out. And I'm not going to tell you, oh, you know, the time's coming, this is the date, it's going to run out. No, but I know it's running out. You know, do we know when the end times are? You know, well, I know each day we're one day closer. That's what I do know. And we have the guidelines and instructions more available to us now than ever before in the history of man. And you got people that have died to get these instructions in their hands. You got people that are getting, you know, today they're getting killed and slaughtered because they have one of these in their house. And then you come here to the United States and you see these books, even if they aren't in the house, they're just collecting dust. The only time people will pick this book up is if they're going to a church on Sunday, not on the Sabbath. And they still then won't even open it to the original part of the foundation of the book, the Torah. We wonder why the world is in the condition it is today. I look at it from a disease standpoint. You know, we have more books, science, knowledge, and study of the topic of disease than ever before in the history of man. At the same time, we have more people suffering from disease than ever before in the history of man. What is the connection there? How can that be? Well, here's what it is. We have more people today living against the guidelines and instructions ever before than the history of man. And that's why we continue to suffer today. Because as it says in the scriptures, if you do not follow my guidelines and instructions, I will put disease on you that I put on the non-believers. I will even put new disease on you that you never even heard of yet. And each day a new disease is being named. So folks, we have the opportunity, we have the information. You don't need to go into a mega church and listen to some smiling pastor, you know, who's just taking your money and doing who knows what with it. No. You need to be following the word. And if somebody's going to call you legalistic for following the guidelines and instructions, folks, take that as a compliment. Because if you're doing so well that they're noticing, good job. Okay? We just need to remember the goal is Yeshua Messiah here. It's not about you know, doing this because we have to. It's about doing this because we want to, because he said it, because we have faith in who he is and we want to follow his guidelines and instructions. If you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. Until then, have a great day and shalom shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries. Come out of the world,